Honorable President of the Senate, Minister of Science and Innovation, President of the BBVA Foundation, President of CSIC, authorities and members of the Diplomatic Corps, Chairmen and members of the juries, esteemed co-laureates, distinguished guests. I'm deeply honored to be the recipient of this year's BBVA Foundation Frontiers of Knowledge Award in Biomedicine. Upon receiving news of this prize, I was both surprised and, of course, delighted. I never dreamed, almost 50 years ago, when I entered medical school, that I would become a scientist, much less one who would one day win an award such as this. My only goal was to practice medicine. But when I spent a 2-year period in research at the National Institutes of Health after my medical residency, everything began to change for me. I experienced for the first time the exhilaration that accompanies making even the smallest of discoveries. Over the next 5 years, as I pursued both clinical medicine and laboratory research, I felt myself drawn ever more strongly to the research, and I began to understand that it was in that direction that my destiny lay. My work concerns molecules known as receptors. Now, receptors have fascinated biologists for more than a century, and they've certainly fascinated me for the entirety of my research career. They are molecules located on the outside of cells with which all manner of hormones, neurotransmitters, and drugs interact. They're really the gateway to all the cell's metabolic pathways. I've spent my entire career studying these fascinating and important molecules. The types of receptors that I study are the commonest target of therapeutic drugs, as you've heard, including, for example, receptors for opiate narcotics, antihistamines, serotonin, and adrenaline, to name just a very few. They also include the smell, taste, and visual receptors. My work has involved devising ways of studying these receptors, isolating them, and cloning their genes to learn about their structures. I've also been fascinated throughout my career by a universal phenomenon by which the receptors tend to turn off or desensitize if they're continuously stimulated. This can limit the effectiveness of many stimulatory drugs. For example, adrenaline or narcotics used for pain relief. Gratifyingly, our work has greatly facilitated the development of many types of drugs. Recently, we've discovered some new ways in which the receptors function, which I believe and hope will lead to the development of novel classes of therapeutics. I want to acknowledge that the work for which I'm being honored today was performed over many years by dozens of my talented and devoted students and fellows. This award honors them as much as it does me. I'm also remarkably fortunate to have been supported throughout by my loving family, by my wife Lynn, who's with me, by my 5 children, represented by my daughter Mara here tonight, and by 4 grandchildren. In closing, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to the BBVA Foundation for establishing these wonderful awards and for bestowing this year's prize on me. Thank you.